Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start the program in a bit. Maybe request everyone to take their seats as we begin the book launch of Neither Fear Nor Favor, a biography of Justice Conchita Carpio Morales. Again, good afternoon. I'm Paterno Esmaquel II, Senior Reporter at Rappler, your MC for today. It is our pleasure to welcome you to the launch of a book whose title should serve as a mantra for public officials: Neither Fear Nor Favor. Given recent headlines, this book couldn't be timelier, offering valuable lessons on fairness, objectivity, integrity, and independence in public service. We at Rappler and Milfores Publishing are honored to sponsor the launch of this biography, which celebrates the life and legacy of one of the Philippine judiciary's most fearless and remarkable women. Today's program is being broadcast live on Rappler, including our YouTube and Facebook pages, allowing a wider audience to join the event. We'd also like to greet our Rappler Plus members who are here today. Rappler Plus is our newsroom's premium membership program that gives you early access to our biggest investigative and in-depth stories and a behind-the-scenes experience of our newsroom, all while supporting our independent journalism. If you are interested in joining Rappler Plus, just approach any of our Rappler staff here. The book, Neither Fear Nor Favor, The Life and Legacy of Conchita Carpio Morales, is authored by Dr. Jose Y. Dalisay, Jr. Dr. Dalisay has published over 40 books of his stories, plays, and essays, with 7 of those books receiving the National Book Award from the Manila Critics Circle. He is a Palanca Hall of Famer and TOIM awardee. He is Professor Emeritus at the University of the Philippines. Please welcome Dr. Jose Y. Dalisay, Jr.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you all for coming here today. We authors are usually the hero, the bida, at these book launches, with a notable exception of biographies, where we become merely the enablers and sharers of the more important story, which is the subjects. And today that subject is one of the most fearless and remarkable women ever to serve in our judiciary, the retired Supreme Court Justice and Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales. I've written a number of biographies of outstanding Filipinos before, among them the accounting titan Washington Sisip, former UP and Senate President Edgardo Angara, and the renowned economist Leonidas Virata, as well as the revolutionary Lava brothers. But this was different in many ways. For mostly, it was because my subject was a woman working her way up in a heavily male-dominated system, constantly challenged to adhere to her fundamental values and principles in an environment of corruption, intimidation, and political accommodation. For the men, given that they had the talent and the grit and possibly the right connections, success was practically a given. For such women as Conchita, proving oneself worthy was often doubly difficult. Since the Supreme Court of the Philippines was established in 1901, almost 200 justices have been appointed to that exalted bench. Only 18 have been women as of 2023. And it wasn't until 1973 that the first female justice, Cecilia Muñoz Palma, took office. After Morales was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo in 2002, among the first cases to fall on her lap was the impeachment of no less than Chief Justice Hilario Davide, brought on by pro-Estrada congressmen who believed that Davide had misused the Judiciary Development Fund. A fellow justice approached the novice to ask her point blank, "Chita, do you think you can handle this?" Inhibiting herself from the case would have been the prudent option, but she took it on and wrote the decision disposing of the complaint. She would soon be known for her fierce independence. Despite death threats, a grenade was once left outside her Muntinlupa home, along with a threatening message. She worshipped no sacred cows, spared no one from judicial scrutiny when the situation demanded. This was even much clearer when she retired from the Supreme Court and was appointed ombudsman in charge of investigating and prosecuting high-profile cases of graft and corruption in government. Among the cases that crossed her desk were those against PGMA, who appointed her, President Noynoy Aquino, who swore her into office, former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, and former Vice President Jejomar Binay. While most of a justice's or ombudsman work is done quietly, away from public view, occasionally they come into the limelight even against their wishes because of our fraught political environment where issues often end up in court. One such case was the 2011 impeachment of Chief Justice Renato Corona, a highly significant and contentious case that centered on serious allegations of corruption and betrayal of public trust. Then the ombudsman, Morales, engaged a former Supreme Court colleague, Serafin Cuevas, in what came to be known as the Battle of Retired Justices. I had been summoned as a hostile witness by the defense, Conchita recalls. I sensed that the defense wanted to embarrass and even humiliate me. They thought that my alleged opinion that Corona had millions of dollars in undeclared deposits had been based on the 3 complaints filed before the Office of the Ombudsman. But it was the Anti-Money Laundering Council that had furnished me with the CJ's record of bank transactions. I had requested their assistance as reported by the media even before I was summoned to testify. The 3 complaints filed at the OMB never mentioned any dollar deposits. If the defense counsels had been insightful enough, they should have figured that out. And Corona was eventually impeached in a vote of 20-3. Her confrontations with former President Rodrigo Duterte, a distant relative through the marriage of her nephew Milfores Carpio to presidential daughter Sara, were also the stuff of theater. At the 2016 wedding of Manasseh's brother Waldo, the president and the ombudsman walked down the aisle together arm in arm, he in a cream barong and she in a bottle green gown, and appeared friendly, making small talk. The cordiality would not last long. 1 year later, in October 2017, President Duterte challenged Conchita to resign as ombudsman, claiming that she had exercised selective justice in asking her deputy, Arthur Carandang, to investigate his unexplained wealth. Duterte suspended Carandang and threatened to impeach Conchita. Resign now, he told Morales. And he said something else that I'm not going to mention here for fear of spoiling our afternoon, which was egregiously coarse, but came as no surprise to audiences familiar by this time with the former president's tough guy and often misogynistic language. Morales promptly hit back, vowing not to be intimidated. If the president has nothing to hide, he has nothing to fear, she coolly told a press conference. What most people never saw was Conchita's light side. The first time she went to Broadway in 1981, she watched Evita with her sister Vicky. I have to beg your indulgence, ma'am, in sharing this anecdote. Before watching, they had dinner at Gallagher's, where the size of the steaks made Conchita's eyes pop. She couldn't finish her portion, and ever the Ilocana wanted to have it wrapped to take home. Her sister told her not to do that. So Conchita went to the ladies' room, got some tissue paper, and wrapped the steak. The following day, they went to Washington, where they went to dinner and had shrimp cocktail. Conchita then took out the previous day's steak, to the shock of Vicky, who said, "Don't bring that out, don't embarrass me." And the steak ended up in the wastebasket. Now, lawyer Efirio Amatong and others who trained with her were privy to Conchita's moods and modes. When she was in her justice mode, she was very strict, very sharp, very hard to read, with an incredible poker face. F. Amatong says, "I knew lawyers like the co-head of litigation at a big firm who thought that she was scary." But while she could be reserved, she could also be very charming and accommodating. She had a great sense of humor. I remember when she had to attend an en banc meeting or when she had a ponencia for deliberation, just before she went out the door, she might be laughing or making jokes about the grilling she might get, or mention what she was wearing and how fashionable she was. But once the door opened and once she stepped out, her justice face came on, ready for battle. And I think we're all fortunate today that Justice Chit isn't wearing her Joan of Arc face and armor. Thank you again, Justice, for the privilege and honor of writing your life story. And it's really your signature and not mine that people will want in their books today, but I won't mind. Magpapapirma rin po ako sa inyo mamaya. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Dr. Dalisay. At this point, I'd like to introduce my colleague at Rappler, Ms. Lian Buan, who will moderate the next part of the program. Lian is Rappler's senior investigative reporter and minder of our Justice, Human Rights, and Crime cluster. Lian, a journalism graduate of the University of Santo Tomas, holds a Master of Laws degree in Human Rights from Birkbeck College, University of London. Lian covered Justice Morales at the office of the Ombudsman. When I asked Lian to describe Justice Morales, Lian said, quote, "True to being a justice, she does not always grant interviews. But when she does, expect it to be headline worthy." And Lian continues, "My favorite quote is her telling Duterte, anong pakialam niya?" Please welcome Ms. Lian Buan. Now I am honored to introduce the woman of the hour. Justice Conchita Carpio Morales spent her entire professional life working for the justice system. She worked at the Department of Justice for almost 12 years before she was appointed a trial court judge in Pile, Camarines Sur in 1983. She became a justice of the Court of Appeals in 1994 and in 2002 a justice of the Supreme Court. She was only the 10th woman to become a justice of the High Court at that time. But she was not done. After her retirement from the Supreme Court in 2011, she was appointed ombudsman, a role she became best known for. Her name and face were attached to the country's biggest anti-corruption crusades, one of them the expose and prosecution of the pork barrel scam. She has had many enemies, and that list includes China, which, as you would read in the book, had once spoiled a Hong Kong Disneyland trip with her grandchildren. Being a grandma, she says, is her most favorite role of all. Please welcome Justice Conchita Carpio Morales.
Good afternoon po to everyone. I'd have to say this is a nerve-wracking experience because this room is full of VIPs. And news sources I usually chase, pero parang gusto ko nalang magtago muna ngayon. But I take this great honor of interviewing you, Justice. Maraming naghahangad na makasit down ka sa mga reporter. So I would take this honor and pleasure to interview you.
I had no choice because Miss Maria Reza, who had the idea of hosting this, and she's now present, she gave me a pleasant surprise. Princess and Maria, Nobel Prize winner. She said she was not available for today, but wow, what a pleasant surprise. Lo and behold, Maria was there at the door. Thank you, Maria.
All right, Justice. I'll start off light para warm up muna. You have, sabi nga, you have spent your entire professional career for the justice system. What was your most favorite office? DOJ, RTC, CA, SC, Ombudsman, and why?
Favorite? Well, I would not have any favorite office. I loved all my offices, except that it was during my experience as a trial judge that I loved best my work because I learned much from the practitioners who were good, who did not swagger, but they knew their law, the practitioners who taught me to be humble, and I enjoyed watching witnesses because from their demeanor in court, you could ascertain their credibility. One time, one was wearing dark glasses. I said, "Can I see your face? Can I see your eyes?" He said, "Something is wrong with your eyes." And I said, "Something is wrong with my eyes," he said. And so am I. I also have something wrong with my eyes. But I want to see my beautiful eyes be seen by others. And so I do not put on dark glasses. And so he removed it. There was nothing wrong with his eyes, but he knew that I could sense his credibility by the looks of his eyes. All right. So as I said, all my positions were my favorite. But will you not ask me what is not my favorite?
Sige po, what is not your favorite, Justice?
Well, maybe you should frame your question is
Least favorite.
Least favorite. Actually, not the entire stay in the Supreme Court, but I was pissed off when I had a ponencia, and the day before the deliberations, they would tell me, "Chit, ang ganda ng draft mo. I don't know what else I could add." But the following morning, katakot-takot na dissenting opinion. If that is not hypocrisy, I don't know what is.
Justice, title reveal daw po nung case na yon. Parang gusto nilang malaman.
Na.
Secret. Puntahan nyo na lang po siya mamaya para malaman. Justice, the book discusses about when you were appointed to become ombudsman, there were some doubts about how you would perform the role kasi babae and you were already 70 at the time. Would you say that during your time there was really sexism in the judiciary, and do you think it has improved?
I don't think there was any. I don't think so.
But there was also some details about the book where tinawag ka daw po na fragile egg during that
Well,
time.
you know, socially, you were treated as a fragile egg. But when it comes to the merits of a case, walang fragile sa mga lalaki. And thankfully, I thought like a woman, because it's not nice to compare a woman with a man. Comparisons are odious. So that's it. Socially, yes, they treated me like a fragile. They wanted to show that they know their, etiquette.
Parang it's hard for me to see you as a fragile egg ever. Parang there's no world in which you are a fragile egg. But then, what would you say po are qualities of a woman in the judiciary that men may say it's being fragile, but actually advantage siya? Siguro yung pagiging nurturing, pagiging caring. What would you say are the qualities?
Well, you can be stern, you can be serious, you can be firm, but you also have a soft heart. You can also be emotional, you can have mercy. So that's probably the difference between a man and a woman, because the men usually are firm, unless, of course, they have corruption in mind, so they become soft when money comes to them.
Justice, I know you most as being, may sasabihin pa po kayo. May itutuloy niyo po ba? I know you best as being an ombudsman, and I remember you as being a most proactive ombudsman talaga. You got the Supreme Court to abandon the condonation doctrine. You got them to clarify the inordinate delay rule so that it's not prone to abuse. During that time po ba, Justice, conscious ka na, legacy mode ka na? You want to...
I knew that whatever I do, I would be judged by the people. So legacy to me was not material.
Among the policies po that you have left at the Ombudsman, meron po bang mga hindi na-maximize that you look back at now and say, sayang, kasi we worked hard for that policy?
Well, it was during my time that we activated the enforcement of the environmental law. But sadly, I don't know what happened to that. It has become dormant. And another policy was, I was following the word of the law that when you have a statement of assets and liabilities, the people, under two sections of the law, the people have the right to know your assets and liabilities.
Tatanong ko po sana mamaya yung salin, mamaya na lang sa dulo. Justice, during your time as ombudsman, doon nagsimula ding ma-dismiss yung mga big fish cases of the office, such as the PCSO.
Dismissed by the Sandigan Bayan, not my office.
Yes. By the Supreme Court muna, and then by the Sandigan Bayan.
Not all were dismissed by the Supreme Court. Of course, sometimes the Supreme Court denied the motions or the appeals of those who were indicted in court, but eventually, when it went to the Supreme Court denied or dismissed the complaint. That's very odd.
Among those that have been dismissed by either the Supreme Court or sa Sandigan Bayan, including the pork barrel scam cases, which hurt you the most? Which case that was dismissed hurt you the most? Yung tingin mo, you really had a good conviction rate?
The dismissal of the case of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. The Sandigan Bayan denied the moral to evidence. When you say the moral to evidence, after the prosecution rests its case, the defense believes that the case presented by the prosecution is not enough to shift the burden of the evidence to the defense. So the Sandigan Bayan denied the moral to evidence. When the case went to Supreme Court, lo and behold, she was acquitted. That to me was a very disappointing, dejecting experience.
How about po the acquittal of the senators and the pork barrel scam? Did they disappoint you also?
The acquittal of Bong Revilla, I thought the evidence was very strong. And I even, a little bird in the office of the Sandigan Bayan told me that, Ma'am, ma-acquit si Revilla The following day, acquitted na siya. And the evidence was very strong. So, you see, as ombudsman, you just file a case if you believe that a crime has been committed and if you believe that the respondent is probably guilty. Now, whether or not when the court tries the case, he is guilty, otra cosa. But if I were the justice, of which I was not, I would have convicted him.
Right. Justice, you also have a very unique point of view of being the ombudsman who took on the witness stand during the impeachment of CJ Corona.
You're opening up wounds.
Sorry po. I'm sure they are interested to know. What would you say can the ombudsman do within the duties and of the ombudsman dito sa present impeachment proceedings of Vice President Sara Duterte? I believe the current outgoing ombudsman has taken cognizance of the case.
No, he withdrew any action taken by him. I'm referring to the present ombudsman. He withdrew his initial action on the complaint, copy of which was furnished him only for purposes of FIU. Ano ba yun? FYI.
But he said, I believe he ordered the Vice President to comment because he says, alam mo naman gawin kong paperweight yung in FYI sa akin. So I think effectively he's taken cognizance of the...
No, he eventually withdrew his action there.
If you were still...
If I read it correctly.
If you were still the ombudsman, ma'am, what can the ombudsman within...
Well, that was a criminal case which was being... the result of the investigation was a criminal case which was being forwarded by the House for its information. So, since the ombudsman does not have any criminal jurisdiction over the Vice President and all impeachable officials for that matter, I would not have taken cognizance of it.
Another unique view mo, Justice, is having penned the Francisco versus House of Representatives decision on the impeachment of Chief Justice Davide. Have you...
The Chief Justice
yes,
is
po.
here.
Hello
You
po.
better be correct because he's listening.
Your Honors, with your indulgence. Justice, have you read about the recent Supreme Court order asking Congress to reply to specific questions about how impeachment proceeded in both chambers?
I think
What do you think po of...
the main question, again, I don't really actually read the things, but the main question is they were asking Congress whether or not the first three complaints were acted upon.
What do you think po of that resolution?
I really don't know because they said they never forwarded them to the Committee on Justice. So, if they were never forwarded to the Committee on Justice, the case is not initiated within the meaning of the law.
Justice, isa po sa mga natatandaan kong episode in the Office of the Ombudsman was your investigation, the office's investigation into the alleged hidden wealth of the Duterte family before. That brought a lot of trouble to the court. You became the target of the president, I believe. Looking back, would you have made anything different?
No, because I did not take part there. I recused myself. I asked my deputy ombudsman to take over in light of the, affinity, as earlier said. The husband of Sarah is the son of my brother, who is here now. I thought he would not be coming,
Attorney Carpio.
so I'm being careful in talking about impeachment. That would ruffle his feather.
Just to follow up, Justice, I believe that when the office terminated that investigation, you said
Listen. I really actually don't know what happened, no? Because it was the overall deputy ombudsman who is here now,
was also here.
who was the one who was investigating that.
Pinagpapawisan na ako talaga. So,
Alright, go on.
magla-last question na ako. Justice, we are on the search for our newest ombudsman. Magre-retire na po si Justice Samuel Martirez. What do you think? Anong hinahanap niyo sa next ombudsman? What would be your advice to the next ombudsman?
Can you not find it in the present ombudsman what is ideal for him to have done?
Wala na. Pinagpapawisan na talaga ako. If
Okay, you answer me too. I am also privileged to ask questions.
Ang masasabi ko na lang po, without directly answering you, Justice, is that I feel like I was deprived of more years to cover you. Kasi when I got into the beat, retire na po kayo nun. But I would say, and I think the room would agree, that you were the perfect ombudsman for those tumultuous 2 years of President Duterte. Hindi po ba?
Thank you. I'm afraid I might believe you.
Nakalusot ako dun sa tanong mo. Okay. Just to follow up, Justice, on that, are there policies of the outgoing ombudsman that you think should be reversed? I am taking particular interest in the restriction to the public of the SALNs.
Well,
Any other?
I give him the benefit of the doubt that he knows how to read and write. I don't know if you believe that he knows how to read and write. Because the law is very clear that people are entitled to know the assets and liabilities of public officials.
So you would advise the next ombudsman to revert?
Whoever will be the next ombudsman, I also give him the benefit of the doubt.
All right, thank you so much, JCCM. I think I'd give the chance to our guest today to ask questions to JCCM kasi hindi ko na po kaya. So, sa kalala na po, we have Jairo who will assist. I can also assist Justice. And we will call on.
Thank you, Lian. We are pleased that Justice Carpio Morales has graciously agreed to take questions from our guests and audience. If you would like to pose a question, please kindly introduce yourself before asking so we may acknowledge your participation. May we invite Dr. Jose Dalisay Jr. to join Justice Conchita Carpio Morales on stage. When you ask a question, please let us know if you are addressing it to Dr. Dalisay or to Justice Morales. And for those joining us online, you may send your questions through the Justice chat room of the Rappler Communities app. And we'd like to invite you to download it if you haven't. So, may we take a few questions from the floor? Lian and Jairo would help in taking the questions and assisting you.
Is whether or not an international rules-based order still exists. It seems like the world has turned upside down. Does it? What do we do in this time period when rule of law depends on facts, and facts are now debatable? How do we get through this time period? Can you compare it to anything else you've lived through?
Maybe that should be addressed to the president. But, like our West Philippines Department, rule of law is supposed to be observed, but some people are insolent. So no amount of pressure can make them change their mind, but it's a matter of time. Probably they will realize that we need the rule of law, and given the fact that our allies are also doing their part to see to it that rule of law is observed, we can always hope, as they say, hope springs eternal.
Jairo, baka gusto mo daw.
So I take it that your silence means either you understood what we talk about, or you're scared to ask questions. The first one or the second one?
When I was doing spine surgery there, St. Luke's, 40 years ago.
Oh my God.
Remember you?
My name is Rodrigo.
40 years ago. 40 years.
I've been a journalist all my life. Too long. No, first, thank you for the book. I thought, and thank you for doing it. You don't think of anyone.
You identify yourself, Verhel? Did you identify yourself?
No, not really. No, it's some. I had any question, it would be something along the line of what Maria asked. It seems to me that all virtues in these times are so easily hijacked, including justice. And I'm wondering whether we would at any time be able to survive this. In other places, they're saying that the problem is cultural, not anything less. And therefore, it would require not a generation, not 2 generations, not even 3, or a whole lifetime to be able to set it right at all. So that some people are thinking of simply putting together an alternative constituency of like-minded people and operate within that constituency. I want very much to know how you look at things and where they might be going.
Well, your incessant columns hitting on officials, including the president, they might still matter later on, but no harm trying. Let's keep on fighting, even if it takes a generation to win this fight. But in another vein, I have always said that I think I'm advocating for a physical revolution. Kill all people you see. Never mind if you yourself get killed, because probably we need a new breed of people who hopefully will be able to replace the rascals who are leading us presently and in the past and probably in the future. Are you happy, Verhel?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
You. Oh, my classmate, the former BIR commissioner.
Well, I'm not going to ask a question. I'm going to dissent. When you said kill all people, somebody told me that when I was in the BIR. Kill all people so that you can get better taxpayers and all. I don't believe that. I feel that we have no business. We don't even know who will educate these young ones that will be coming in. This is still our role. Let's not give up. And in fact, I know it's so disappointing, when we think that after all you've gone through all of this, you expect that there would be changes that you could have brought about, right? I really love Cheat. We were classmates. We were always seatmates. From first year yata hanggang fourth year, no? So sabi ko, siya yung mabait, ako yung aktivista. Okay. So, seeing her rise through all of this, and in fact, while she had also all her problems, we were together still. And I'd like to congratulate her for standing firm and fearless. But please, don't kill all the people. Thank you.
Your comment is noted, my dear classmate.
Anyone else po?
Sorry. Since we have you, I will ask one more question, ma'am.
You have the privilege. Because you are a Nobel Prize awardee.
Thank you. With the Philippines, when I speak now, I talk about how the Philippines went from hell to purgatory. and that other countries are going to hell right now. What we've seen during the time of Duterte, the Duterte administration, is that more lawyers and judges were killed than journalists. And now we're seeing the kind of pressure put on judges and justices in America. I ask our American colleagues to learn the lessons from the Philippines. What lessons, what advice would you give to members of the Supreme Court of the United States, for example, to other men and women who have to hold the line to maintain rule of law?
I think it's beyond help to advise people in the Supreme Court of the United States of America because they seem to have a very clear understanding of how the president should rule and how he should not do that. We're glad that we have a woman dissenter. Justice, what's her name again? The one with curly hair?
Sotomayor.
Sotomayor.
And Ketanji Brown is also
Yes.
there.
We have to give it to them. But you know, we are a pace setter. Gumagaya lang sila kay Duterte. But they cannot duplicate Duterte's feat. You know, men who are always behind will always be the last. You have to come across, either you are aligned with that man or you have to be in front. So that's it. Let's hope that the Supreme Court justices will see the light to also, you know, see to it that democracy is observed and that the road to perdition is stopped.
And about courage, because now the judiciary must have courage to maintain rule of law. What advice?
You are talking about the United States or our judiciary here?
Actually po, lahat na po eh. Kasi we're watching the entire world. As of March this year, VDEM in Sweden said that 72% of the world is now under authoritarian rule.
Well, as far as the judiciary here in the Philippines is concerned, well, I'm glad that no current member is present. The one I expected to come is in Malaga, Spain. One who was very frank in telling me that she could not come because Justice Carpio and Justice Morales have pending petitions in the Supreme Court. That you have to give. That is courage, that is integrity. I'm not speaking of only one justice, some justices. As for the rest, I don't know. What we know is hearsay, but we have to validate these hearsay stories. I just hope that the president will appoint a next ombudsman who is a person of integrity, a person who knows how to read and write, and a person who is not beholden to the appointing power. Yes, El Cid.
Sid Butuyan from the UN in New York. Justice, we had the privilege of hosting you to give a lecture at Harvard Law School, at the World Bank, and other places. But what I noticed when we hosted you in the US is you were more excited about catching a Shakespeare play in New York and DC. What is it about Shakespeare that excites you?
We were taught by our father to read Shakespeare even when we were young, even when we did not understand. He was a voracious reader, and he wanted to see to it that we, his children, would read Shakespeare, and he even asked us to memorize certain passages that were really interesting. Like I was about to say when she was talking about lawyers, kill all lawyers. That's what Shakespeare said. Maybe we should really kill lawyers who are unscrupulous, and there are some. So that's it. Our fascination with Shakespeare starts from the time we were very young. Whenever a certain situation calls for something that should apply, that should call for the application of Shakespeare passages, we would do that. Like when he says, "Oh, we should do this, we should do that," so we'd say, "If it to do were as easy as to know what we're good to do,
chapels should be in churches, permanent cottages should be in palaces, something like that. I could hardly remember now, but next time when I go home tonight or I go home tomorrow, I will review it and I will ask you to ask the same question to me again. Thank you, El Cid, for asking that question. We were dates. Recall that whenever I'm glad Mrs. El Cid was not jealous about our going out together. My husband did not know about it, so there would be no occasion for him to be jealous.
Yeah.
Alana.
Hey.
Yes, Dr. Kwanang.
Chita, I had always called her Chita because we grew up together in Ilocos. Let me see. I would like to ask you, what in Ilocos made you who you are today?
Wow. Wow, how flattering. What in Ilocos made me?
Yes.
What?
I know your father was a very influential man to your career. Pero ano ba yun? Ano ba yun sa Ilocos? Because, you know, you grew up in Paway, I grew up in Batak, and we knew each other. Your husband was my best friend. And paano yun? What propelled you to where you are today?
You have to give it to Ilocanos. We put premium to education.
Yeah.
No matter how hard life is, we see to it that we are educated. You go to the houses of some Ilocanos, you will see all the diploma pictures because they are proud to achieve education, not necessarily education, not necessarily being lawyer or a doctor or a scientist and all that. So I think it's in the Ilocanos psyche that we have to have education, perhaps because also of the, you know, they have been mocking Ilocanos. Here I am again. Iniismol tayo. Diba? As I said in an interview not so long ago, sabi nila, ang mga Ilocano ang iitim, ang fa-flat ng mga ilong nila. You know, like that. So probably it's a built-in defense mechanism that your looks or, you know, anything notwithstanding, you can get even or be higher with your education. For as long as you are educated, you can go anywhere. You can face anyone. You can answer any question. Our Senyor Balisacan is nodding his head because he's also Ilocano. Our NEDA secretary. Yes, Dr. Kalanok of Asian Hospital.
Yes. Thank you, Madam. All the questions here are regarding judiciary and Supreme Court, ombudsman. But allow me to share to everybody how I first knew about Madam Conchita Carpio Morales. Many years ago, I saw a very elegant woman taking care cheerfully her husband in a wheelchair in Asian Hospital. She was very quiet, not complaining or saying, well, I'm Conchita Carpio Morales. I'm the former ombudsman. Do you know who I am? It's nothing like that. So when I saw the lady, I saw this, and then I passed by, I said, Madam, are you Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales? And she said, yes, doctor. And then I said, will you allow me to help you? And she said, can you do that? I said, yes. Can you help my husband? We're in rehab, we're waiting for many hours and all that. So I told the rehab receptionist and all that, please take good care of Madam Conchita Carpio Morales. And in a few minutes, everything was done for the husband. But it's her quiet elegance that I have to say, excuse me, Madam, are you Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales? I said, yes, I am, doctor. So from there, forgot how many years ago, started our mutual respect and friendship. So when she needs anything in Asian hospital, she says, Dr. Calano, can you help me? I said, yes, madam, you have summoned me again. So, very elegant, simple, not imposing with everything that she has done for our country in the judiciary. But in the hospital, she's just very quiet and say, can you help me? I said, of course, madam, I will. That's why I'm here, because she said, Doctor, you have to get out of Asian hospital. I'm summoning you to attend. I said, Opo. Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Calano. He is a surgical doctor. Can you tell us your expertise?
I'm graduated from UST in 1977. I have 4 surgical specialties. I've been the doctor of several presidents of our country.
You are after your expertise, not your clients or customers or patients.
That's my next statement now.
Okay.
My expertise is 1, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. 2nd, I'm a spine surgeon. I'm a traumatologist. But I'm the first Filipino orthopedic microsurgeon in the country. So I'm 4.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
I'd like to address a question to Dr. Dalisay.
Salamat.
Dr. Dalisay, what was the most difficult part of the book to write, and why?
Well, surprisingly, this was not a difficult project to do at all, because Justice Morales has been a very cooperative subject, even if of course, the terrain was new to me, having mainly dealt with the biographies of business people, and of course I deal with people in the arts. But and this project actually began during the pandemic, so most of our interviews was done on Zoom. And one memory I have is that before, I mean, this was just me talking to Justice Morales, but before she would come on camera, I would have to wait to make sure that she was perfectly coiffed. Which I thought was a sign of, you know, the kind of respect that she gave to that particular job of being interviewed. Of course, most of our chats had to do with the official side of her work, but as I always do with my biographies, I always make it a point to bring the real person out. Para makilala natin, sino ba talaga si Justice Chip kung hindi siya justice? Ano ba siya bilang tao, bilang kaibigan? And so I had to go out of my way to interview some of her friends. Eto, sina Dindeng Cordero Tan, sina Ronnie Heron, na mga kaibigan ko rin. And from the stories I'm hearing right now, I'm kind of sorry that I didn't meet you when I was writing the book, because I could have brought in a lot more stuff. I see Esther Garcia back there, and she was also a classmate and a good friend of Justice Chip. Now, I'm happy with all the stories I got from these people who really contributed to forming a composite of Conchita Carpio Morales beyond being the judge that we all know. I'm particularly happy to have written this book because, as everyone knows, this is a time in great need of heroes. and models. Every day we read the papers and are suffused with bad news and stories of bad governance, of stories of failure, and that's just depressing. And it's about time that we get reminded by people like Justice Morales that it's possible to be good, it's possible to do your job well and do it right, and to survive so handsomely. I mean, you can do good and live on and influence others. And that's what we hope this book will achieve. I hope it doesn't just get read by you or friends, but that it goes out to law students out there, who need to see what the future lies ahead for them. And it can be, as our former president, not the former one, but, meron daang matwid na pwedeng sundin, if we put our minds and hearts to it.
Just a follow-up question to Dr. Dalisay. So before and after writing the book, were there preconceptions that you had of Justice Morales, and how did the writing process either shatter or reinforce these preconceptions of yours?
Well, pretty much the impression that everybody else has of Justice Morales as a woman of steel, which of course she is when she wants to be, but I've had the privilege of seeing her, shall we say, off duty, and there I saw a perfectly normal person with her peeves. And I think it's important to stress here that when we write biographies like this, we do not, and we should not portray our subjects as saints. Our heroes were never saints. It's important that we understand that they're real people who are fallible, who make mistakes, have prejudices, and in some ways, are neither better nor worse than you and me. Because this empowers every one of us. And that's Justice Morales behind this. I'm sure those of you who know her better than I do have all kinds of stories about her that I haven't even heard, but which will humanize her even further. Look at her, after all her distinctions, she's a perfectly human person, just like you and me in many ways. And that, I think, is what I hope to have achieved by the book, na makilala natin siya in all her glorious aspects.
Thank you, Dr. Dalisay. So we have 5 minutes left. We'd like to entertain.
May I hasten to say that whatever Dr. Dalisay said is not necessarily commercial for business purposes. The proceeds of 100 sales of the book will go to the Friends of the PGH, of which I'm a member. And our president is here now, Mrs. Carmelita Salvador. That's why the receipts are issued by the Friends of PGH, up to 100 copies. Thank you.
So we'd like to entertain the last few questions for Justice Morales, for Dr. Dalisay.
Oh, Attorney Te.
If you will allow me, I have a question for Dr. Dalisay, and also if Justice Carpio Morales would indulge me. I'll start with a fountain pen story. Since Dr. Dalisay, of course, is a well-known fountain pen aficionado, and Justice Morales as well.
And so is Justice Carpio.
Yes. When I was still working with the Supreme Court, and I recall Justice Morales, then the ombudsman, was at the court, part of my duties was, of course, to greet dignitaries to the court. So I went to see her and I greeted her. And the first thing she said to me was, "That's an expensive-looking fountain pen sticking out of your barong." And then she said, "Did you report that in your SALN?" Of course, it was not an expensive fountain pen. It was a China knockoff. But I wanted to ask Dr. Dalisay if you had conversations about fountain pens with Justice Morales, and Justice Morales is Do you have a favorite pen?
Even before she asked me to write her book, we had met in our fountain pen group meetings. No, she would appear there with Justice Marvick Leonin, who's another fountain pen collector. Kaya doon muna kami nagkakilala. Bilang mga nasira ulo sa fountain pen, yung mga panulat na, these things that spit ink and make your shirt all blue or black. Yes, there's a fountain pen story in the book too. I don't want to preempt her. Ewan ko kung ito yung favorite ninyo eh. Pero ang una kong nakitang fountain pen niya is a Mont Blanc Cervantes. It's so Cervantes, Don Quixote, which I thought was very emblematic of the kind of person she was. Talagang, eto, palaban tayo. Pero ano po yung paborito ninyong fountain pen talaga?
All my Mont Blancs are my favorite. Yeah. But my most favorite is it's a limited edition. It's a porcelain one. But something was wrong. It could not arrive. So I sent it to Rustans, and Rustans will send it to Switzerland. And then after 3 months, it came back. No, the quotation came back. And they said I would have to spend, that was last year, 16,000 for the repair. So forget it. I don't see Ronnie Hiron. Is he around here? Through the proddings of Justice Leonin, nahihiya na ako because he was always escorting me to the sellers of pens during bazaars. I bought one. So I said I could not afford that. Sinabi naman ng sekreto ng justices na retired. So, napahiya naman ako for all his effort in escorting me to look at all the pens. I bought one. It was also a porcelain. When I was clumsy, I dropped it. But fortunately, Ronnie Heron knows a friend who was able to fix it without being sent to Japan, because that's made in Japan.
Justice, I remember watching you in one of these pen shows, buying a pen from a young seller of pens. He's really a first-class seller, but he's very young. And he's a law student. Kaya nung lumapit kayo sa kanya, talagang binarap ni Justice yung kawawang seller, kasi nga alam niya law student itong bata. Kaya hindi nakapahindi.
And he also knew that I'm Ilocana.
Yeah.
But I always say, sasabihin nila mga barat, mga kuripot na Ilocano. But we are good at really bargaining, at haggling. Kung makalusot ka, why not, di ba? So as I said in that interview, if I buy something for 20 pesos and it's being sold in the next, after my haggling, and in the next stall, you buy it for 18 pesos. So, nalugi ako ng 200 pesos. Lalagnatin ako. Okay. So, if there are no more questions, Mr.
Just one more question. One last question from the audience.
Parang wala na, Paterno.
All right. Our Rappler's Head of Community, Pia Ranada, would like to ask the final question.
Hello, Justice.
Hi.
So it is my job to cover the former president's words, and I really distinctly remember the former president's words. Former President Rodrigo Duterte, because I covered Malacanang during his term. So
you better be careful, di balae.
I know.
Carpio,
apologies for the question. I'm just really curious because I remember writing the first few offensives he had against you. He said that your term was precarious. I think yun yung first attack niya. Precarious daw yung term niyo. And I also remember him saying...
Because he said, I was overstaying.
Yeah, Marcelita Gutierrez's term. So parang may ganun. And then he also accused you of selective justice. I remember Duterte, when I covered him, he really did have the tendency to call a person the exact opposite of what they want to be known for. And I remember thinking, as I typed down his words after he was saying them, I remember wondering,
my gosh, what will the ombudsman think about what I'm about to write or the words that are coming out of the president's mouth? And I'm happy I get to ask you today. I'm just curious, what was going on in your head when you first heard those words? And what were you thinking? And maybe how did you deal with that situation, knowing that those words were coming from the president?
Well, at first, I wanted him to keep on talking. But it came to a point that he was so insolent, he was so severe in criticizing me. Sabi niya, mag-resign ka na. Hindi mo alam ang batas. Former ombudsman, former Supreme Court Justice ka naman. Kung ayaw mo mag-resign, huhubaran kita. My knee-jerk reaction, huhubaran niya ako. Ikaw rin.
Thank you, Justin.
You want some more?
Yes, sir. More daw, sabi ni Lian.
Really wanted to embarrass me. He said I was overstaying. But you know, it's clear that when you are appointed as ombudsman, even if your predecessor did not finish the term, you are given a fresh 7-year term. And also, maybe it's in the book, he wanted to disbar me, of course, through his minions. So what did the Supreme Court say? You cannot disbar a person who is impeachable. You cannot circumvent the law by filing a disbarment complaint. Then they also filed impeachment complaint. I am a survivor. He should know that. I don't know if he is. Thank you. Apologies to the Balaes who are here.
A round of applause for Dr. Dalisay and Justice Morales. May I now invite Ms. Andrea Pasion Flores, publisher of Milfores Publishing Incorporated, to deliver her closing remarks. Ms. Flores will also provide details on how our audience can obtain copies of the book.
Closing remarks in this room. I don't think it's my favorite thing to do. Okay, retired Supreme Court Justice and Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, our dear author, Dr. Jose Dalisay, my former professors of law, there are 3 of them in the room, my former professor in creative writing, Honorable Justice of the Supreme Court, all these important people, friends, good afternoon. Let me introduce myself a bit. I'm a publisher of a book publishing company. It's an independent publishing company which I purchased from the widow of its founder during the pandemic year of 2020. We publish literary fiction, narrative nonfiction, and children's literature. When we published our first few titles in 2021, we knew we had to signal to the world that aside from doing literary fiction, we would be doing biographies. Very few lives deserve to be written into a book, and those lives must stand scrutiny, and we as the publisher must be able to signal to the reader that the lives we hold up to the public are exemplary. So in 2021, we started with Nick Joaquin's biography of Jose Rizal, titled Rizal in Saga, A Life for Student Fans. Our second biography was the National Book Award winner, the biography of Senator Rodolfo Biazon, Soldier, Solon, Statesman by Eric Ramos. Our third was the memoir of retired Supreme Court Justice Adolf Ascuna, Silver is My Gold. This book, Neither Fear Nor Favor, The Life and Legacy of Conchita Carpio Morales by Jose Dalisay, our fourth biography in 5 years, is our first biography of a woman. And the book gods must be looking after us because we have stumbled upon one of the most admirable women in the country today. Although throughout this process of doing her book, she never got tired of saying she didn't think people would actually be interested in reading about her, which could not be further from the truth. Yesterday, I brought my children with me to the salon for haircuts. Of course, I brought her book with me to read. My stylist, who asked about the book I was reading, practically stopped cutting my son's hair, his scissors dangling mid-air when I said, "It's the Book of Justice, Conchita Carpio Morales." He said, "Si Ombudsman? Naku, favorite ko yan. Matapang yan. Patingin nga, attorney." I hand the book to him to admire. Naku, bibili ako niyan. Pasign mo ko ha, attorney. Very good ka. Pinublish mo siya. I couldn't believe it. In my head, the audience of biographies in the Philippines are upmarket readers who read in English, likely also lawyers or judges or justices, or like you, ladies and gentlemen who are in this room. Certainly not the guy who told me that dark brown is different from dark blonde. Not so with Justice Carpio Morales. My stylist wanted to read her, and I know it's not just him whose lives Justice Carpio Morales has touched. Her higher-profile cases as ombudsman, such as the investigation of President Benigno Aquino III, former PNP Chief Alan Purisima in relation to the Mama Sapano incident, the pork barrel scam cases, the cases involving former Vice President Binay and his son. And then there were the cases she filed for the misuse of public funds, graft and corruption, and violations of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. So many. In 2019, she filed a communication before the International Criminal Court against Chinese President Xi Jinping, alleging crimes against humanity over Beijing's activities in the West Philippine Sea, for which she was denied entry to Hong Kong on a trip with her family. Justice Carpio Morales takes on the difficult task of speaking truth to power to give justice to a nation so used to injustice that even the ordinary Filipino recognizes it when someone stands up for him. So tonight, in celebrating an extraordinary woman, an extraordinary life, we hope Filipinos who read this book are inspired and given hope, knowing that though many times it didn't feel like it, someone has been on their side all along. When Filipinos read this book, they would know that someone had been their advocate in the many cases that affect their lives. I certainly felt that way reading Butch's manuscript, and I thank Justice Chit not only for trusting Milfores with the story of her life, but for living the life she lived. Now, this is the part when, in the young people's parlance, they said I have to engage the audience. Kasi this was supposed to be, how perfection cannot be rushed, so that we had the launch today. But technically, it was supposed to be done during her birthday, June 19, also the birthday of Jose Rizal. So, as if we are type A personalities in this room, I'd like to ask everyone to please sing Happy Birthday to Justice Chit, although it's a bit belated. Ready? you very much, Justice Chip. Mabuhay po kayo. You can get the book on Lazada, Shopee, on our website.
It is now our pleasure to invite our honoree, Justice Conchita Carpio Morales, and the book's author, Dr. Jose Dalisay Jr., to come in front for the book signing. They will be delighted to autograph your copies of the book. As the autograph signing progresses, you are all cordially invited to join us for a reception where you can indulge in delicious food, refreshing drinks, and lively music. On behalf of Rappler and Milfores Publishing, thank you again for joining us in this special occasion. And again, a round of applause for Dr. Dalisay and Justice Morales on their book.